Okay, now today we try to study the theory of representation. The representation theory makes an abstract algebraic object uh, more concrete. So by describing each element by matrix, and also when you have a group, you can associate, you can represent it, you can represent any element of the group like linear transformation of Hilbert space, of locally compact space, or Banach space, and so on. Each element of your abstract group, you can represent it like this. If you have this one, you have the group here, you have the group, and you can take any element here. Okay, we can like element you put X. Okay, we can like this one, which is also a group, a transformation, linear transformation of some vector space, some Hilbert space, and so on. And we'll study it. And also, we say very, very important, the theory of representation is very useful in physics, course field of mathematics. So we have, if you take X, you have an algebraic group. You have to represent each element of algebraic group like linear transformation. So then if you have for any S here in your group, Y here, you have the product of an element of your abstract group. Then you can represent this with this here, this element here, represent like the product here of matrix, linear transformation. Very, very simple, very, very useful in physics, in quantum mechanics, and so on. Now I will try to give you an idea of this kind of theory, the theory of representation. Now, first of all, we suppose that let JB, okay, I will change my marker because this one is open. Let JB be a locally compact. I suppose that he locally compact group because we define later the high measure on this kind of group. Locally compact group and H a Hilbert space, a complex separable Hilbert space. You can also represent your group in any vector space, like vector space or locally vector space, locally compact vector space, or Banach space, and so on. Now, in this course, I will just represent any element here, like a linear transformation of the Hilbert space, which you say. By the definition, because a map pi from X here, you have P pi X here, of G into this space. This one in the set of linear bounded operator. But the operator EH like this. Said that this map is a representation, if here you have these two conditions for all x, y, for all x, y in J, you can pi of x, y, this one transform this product, this is the product in a group, your algebraic group is equal to the product of matrix, pi of x, pi of y. And also pi of the identity element here is exactly the identity transformation of your Hilbert space. So a representation just represent if your abstract group, you can represent each element of abstract group like the linear transformation. Pi here is a linear transformation from the space, from the Hilbert space. Let's see. Pi is an element J into L of J, which is the set of linear bounded operators in the Hilbert space. such that for x you have pi of x, which is element also from H here, for all vector u, you have pi of fu. So you represent each element your algebraic group like a linear transformation from Hilbert space. Here you take I will work with for Hilbert space, and I'll tell you how so you can work off any vector space an infinite or finite dimensional vector space. Here I'll use that the Hilbert space which is not necessarily finite dimensional. Okay. So you represent each element of your group to each element of your group of this transformation like this. Here in the transformation your Hilbert space. So we say that this representation pi is continuous. You can tell that it's strongly continuous. It's strongly continuous if the map of from all x, you have pi of x for u here is continuous. For all u element of your Hilbert space. That means that pi of x u tend to pi of x0 u when x tend to x0. Like this. And this is strongly continuous also. It will be the same. This one is equivalent the fact that when you have the map like the d 8 into 8 from x u, you associate like this pi of x u is continuous. It's the same. So you can traduce also the strongly continuously of my using that this map is also continuous. We can say also we can study also when the representation is weakly continuous. If the weakly continuous, you have to take two vectors in your Hilbert space, and you can associate this kind of any vectors like this. So you have is pi is weakly continuous. Is usually continuous. Yeah, that means that the pi of x, we take first of all of the element of your Hilbert space. We take pi of u v. I think they say the scalar product of your Hilbert space tend to pi of x0 u v like this when x0 tend to x0. Yeah, this is the scalar product defined on your Hilbert space. When you say you have Hilbert space, you can associate each scalar product. So yeah, in this course, the scalar product will be donated by this form. So you know already that when the representation is continuous, strongly continuous and weakly continuous. But from the Hilbert space, the two are equivalent. Remark. From just for Hilbert space, H for Hilbert space. Strongly continuous representation is equivalent to the weakly continuous representation. Pi is strongly continuous. This one is equivalent to the fact that pi is weakly or continuous. When we are in Hilbert space, the two conditions are equivalent. So if for the Hilbert space, that says that pi is continuous or is not continuous. You don't need to precise that pi is weakly continuous or not or strongly continuous when you have in Hilbert space. Okay, thanks. Just a map, I remind you also a representation is just a map. You associate you associate two algebraic structure x, y, you are saying by the product of matrix like this, y. The product of this one, which is this one is very, very well known already. You have a algebraic book, you are going to the group which is well known already, the linear transformation group. This kind of group is very useful, is well known, part of this. So this kind of group, really the group of linear transformation of Hilbert space or any vector space is very, very well known already. From this association, we can give an idea of the behavior of your group, which is here, knowing the some property of your representation. This one is not necessarily an isomorphism, it's just a map. You associate X here, S here, you say type of S. It's just a isomorphism, just a nomomorphism, of course. Like this, it's just a nomomorphism, not an isomorphism. Okay. The space H here, H is called the space of the representation. We call it a carrier space. Carrier space of the representation. And we call it the carrier space. And sometimes you can call it also the space of realization or the space of realization of pi. So the space in which you represent your each element here, you call the carrier space of your representation or the space of realization of your representation. And I'll give you also some definition we need after. We say that pi here is travel. Is travel. If for all x we take in G, pi for x is just the identity map of your Hilbert space. You say that kind of representation is travel. That means that what? That means that for all you take it in H, pi of x of u is exactly equal to this kind of, so it's called is travel. Okay. It is very, very little hot here. So H here is a carrier space. The P is somewhat like this number. But the dimension of A of your carrier space is called the degree. The degree of the representation. When you see that the dimension of the representation is that the degree, it's not like the d pi of this, or just d pi of this. It's just notation. Say like this. It's just the dimension of your universe, which is finite or not. It is finite or not. You look at the degree of your representation. It's called like this. Okay. Now I'll give you an example of representation. Let's suppose that it also J is already a locally compact group. I'll take the space of square integral function on J. Square integral function on J. This is a Hilbert space. This one an example I give you when you study the Hilbert space. Is a Hilbert space. Where the map, the scalar product on this is like this. Is the integral over J of f of x, g of x like this is a complex number mu of x, where mu here is a Haar measure in J. The Haar measure is a Haar measure. We suppose I forget tell you that the group you use here, any our locally compiled group, you suppose that this kind of group is a unimodular. To simplify some calculation, our group is always unimodular. J, you suppose that G is unimodular. Unimodular. You can see by course concerning the Haberger, you will see the definitions of unimodular group. The modular function is equal to 1 for element is S in G. Like this one. So the degree of representation is just the dimension of your carrier space. Is all. So I'll give you some from here for LX. I'll give you some example. We take F here, an element of this square integral function on J, and we take T R of Y of X like this. F4 for minus 1 X like this for all F in a square integral on D like this, and for all Y X, whether the TR of Y of Fx, I can put it that is F of X Y. So this TR, you can prove easily that TR is a representation, and this one is also a representation. Very, very simple to prove. I don't like to annoy you for the simple calculation. So TR is a representation of J into this Hilbert space in J. Also TR is also a representation of J into this Hilbert space. This is called the regular representation. Left regular representation. They call it the left regular representation. Here is the right regular representation. Is right regular representation, because the action here is at the left here. The action is at the left, the action here is at the right. This one is the left regular representation, here is the right regular representation. So that is the first example we can give you. It's a representation of this one. The notation put here, this part here is a representation, of J of H. We can denote that the pi here is a representation. It that's the notation of J into this. If I put the carrier space here, I put the group here. The carrier space here, the group here. So here, when I say that TR is belong here, this kind of set, that means that TR is a representation of J on this Hilbert space. The carrier space here, this one the group. The group here, the carrier space is also this group. So this is the first example, travel example, given to the regular representation and left regular representation. Okay. Now we can also define what I mean by the matrix form of representation. If you have a representation, we can give also it matrix form of this kind of representation. Matrix. Of representation. We can use it if the direction is not the final dimensional or not. We can give the matrix form of this kind of representation. To suppose that H here, let E, like this EI, like this, which is is like this. It may be equal to infinity. There is a basis, a basis of orthonormal basis. Orthonormal basis. Of your Hilbert space, your this one. So when I suppose that I can compute, that consider for all x in J, I can compute by x of I like this. Is this one is an element of also in H. Then this we can write it like this: x in I, like the collinear combination of the limit of your basis. And it's like this: you get the pi I of something like that. The linear combination of the which depend of x. This depend on x. It depends also on I here, and so we can put it like G I here and E J like this, from J equal to 1 into N like this. This is just the coefficient. There is the coefficient depend on G in J. The count of I depend on I. It's just notation. This kind of flow. Then when we have I complete now pi s of EI. I do the scalar product of EK. If I complete the scalar product of EK, you have exactly this. The scalar product of this J1 capital 1 Ji x Ej and Ek. Now you define that the scalar product is bilinear, linear for the first component, also antilinear for the second component. Yeah. So you have this condition. So if you compute it, also I can put it outside. I can put it outside. You have it will be equal to the sum like this. For J 1 to N of pi of J I of X, the scalar product of A, E, J, E, K, like this. This one exists is only if J is equal to K, because you have to take an orthonormal basis. Then this one is exactly pi of K of I of X, like this for S. This is that one. So we put that pi of K I of X, it's exactly the scalar product of pi of X I E K. And this kind of matrix we call this matrix here K I like this for X. This matrix when K I here is 1 to N. This matrix, because the matrix form of your representation is the matrix form of matrix form of the representation. It's just the matrix form of this representation. So you have the representation, you can give the matrix form, and you come after from this kind of matrix form when you will define the direct sum of representation, direct sum continuous, or direct sum which is a discrete direct sum of representation. You come after from this kind of theory. Okay. I don't know where you can put the cleaner of this. Yeah. I use it this one. So we define already the definition of representation. You know it already. I give you the definition of continuous representation. I give you also the definition of travel representation. When okay, I'll give you now the word representation is unitary. Pi is a unitary representation. This is unitary representation. If just for all x here in G, pi x is just unitary operators. Is operators. Is up. For all x here, pi is a unitary operator. Rolling the pi of x in element of is a bounded operator of this. Just unitary operators. And I forgot to give you some remark concerning when I say that when we say that pi sy is equal to pi s pi y, and you say that pi of e is the identity made of a. This you can say that if you can prove that means that pi of x minus 1 is exactly equal to pi of x minus 1 is like this. That means that any representation is inversible. Is inversible. That means it is inversible. So we can the representation in this case is just a map of the group for the linear inversible representation operators bounded inversible operator for this. From here you can put just a very you have this if you are this product, you have this very simple for you. I don't want to annoy you for the simply calculation, please. Okay, you know unitary representation. When the representation is unitary and so on. Now let us suppose two representation, two Hilbert space. Let H term two Hilbert space. Two Hilbert spaces, right? And X here a bounded operator, a bounded operator. This one is a bounded operator, which is also in isomorphism, which is also is in isomorphism from H onto H prime, that is. It's an isomorphism. Then that's the X is that is an isomorphism of this Hilbert space. We suppose that if you are in this condition, which is isomorphism. So what can I deduce from this relationship? What can I say? So let's take some representation. We take some representation of this kind of thing. I can put it here and pi is a representation of J into H prime. The representation of J on H like this. Like this. So I suppose that S is a isomorphism, is a bounded operator, which is also an isomorphism from H onto H prime. And I say also pi the representation of J on this Hilbert space. Okay, now I will explain it by this diagram. Pi here for all x in J is a map from H into H lines. It's a map by definition of the representation. So it's a linear bundle of H into H prime. And we define like this. This isomorphism X like this is the length from X to H prime like this. This is an isomorphism. Then I will call it commutative of diagram. There is this kind of map from here. We depend also on this. I can put the X prime of S, this one. Then you have which condition? You have X here composed with X here will be equal to S prime composite with S. We can want to go there, I can pass here and can pass here, it will be the same because the diagram is commutative. Then you have pi prime. S is an isomorphism. So pi prime of S can be denoted by this X here composed of X minus 1. So I can prove also that we can prove that easily, very easily, that this pi prime also is a representation of J into this kind of space. Very easy to prove. And you can compute pi prime of Sy, you put it here, and you derive it very simple to prove. This is also the representation of this. If you want, F prime of Xy like this. If you compute it, is the X pi of Xy composed by S minus 1 from this. So is the X composed by pi X by Y. So I can put inside X minus 1 composed by X composed by pi Y composed by X minus 1. Because this here is just identity. And you have this, in fact, that pi is a representation. Pi is a representation already on J into H. Then you have this, and this you have this one. Then you have pi X Y, which is actually representation, which is the first condition. The second condition, right, pi prime of E, you can put E here, E inside here. You have it is equal to X pi of E opposed by I from 101. This is the identity. Then it all is be an identity of H prime. Then we should have very trivial. It's what I say that is very trivial for you. This one is also a representation. And we say that this kind of representation to the representation pi. Pi prime is said to be equivalent to pi. Repeat that the pi prime is equivalent to pi. You say that is equivalent to pi. This is the equivalence relation is equivalent to this. So I can define also the class of representation the class of representation of group is equivalent. Just I give you the now definition. Two representations, pi and pi prime, are equivalent if there exists a bounded operator X such that S composite by pi prime of S is equal to pi prime from S composed of X. This. If there exists a bounded operator, which you also will be an isomorphism, which can this, you have this condition. That means that the pi here, then you can get some isomorphism or bounded operator with intertwining the two representations. We say that the operators are equivalent. A map which respects this condition, you say that S is a intertwining, 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 intertwining operators. Intertwining operators. And you denoted by your X here is the element of this one, R of pi. This means that this X intertwines the two representation. Because it's the intertwining operators, this one, which verify this condition. So that means that pi prime is are equivalent if there exists a bounded operator which intertwine this kind of operation. For example, we can prove for example, TR here is equivalent to TR. You have to you can prove it in the exercise like the exercise. I can give you just a map. I can suppose that X here from L2G to L2G like this. So know that these are the space, the carry space of the regular representation, left regular representation is the space of square integral of J. It's a type that if for Ts you associate this map with F you can put that this map intertwining the two representation. That means that this drop will be equivalent. This notation, when I say that f check here, it's f check of x is just f of s minus 1. It's just notation. Nothing like this. So we can prove that the x here intertwining this kind of operation. LTR. We can prove exercise. That means that the two representations are equivalent. That here exists a map, right? We can do there is this one, we intertwine the two representations like this. That means that this we can prove it easily. Now we'll continue with some definition. We suppose that pi here is the representation of J into this Hilbert space. And I will take here each theta, the subspace of this Hilbert space here. Though by definition we say that each theta is invariant by pi if you have pi x of each theta is contained in H theta for all x in J. I say that this H theta is invariant by your representation. This is contained only for this. That means that for all u in this space and for all x here in G, that means that pi x of u is contained also in this space. That in the same like this. So we say that the H theta is invariant by your representation. Very, very simple. Then if you have consider the Hilbert space, the invariant representation, I can compute when I put there, let's say that pi theta like this, a map from here. I can take it a map from here. I can put it like this. It will be pi restriction to 8 theta, because 8 theta is invariant by this invariant by pi. So I put 8 theta, the restriction to pi into this one. And that be why. When you say the restriction in the sense for all x here, that means that your pi here, pi is a representation for all x is here from h to h. H to h. Your map here is your representation. H to h. When you take a h theta here, h theta here, I take also h theta here. My h theta must be the representation. We map this kind of this one, which I put the pi theta of x. And when I support this, that means that it's just a notation. But the real notation is like this is pi, of x, the restriction of h theta, for all x in j. But you usually use this kind of notation this. So, because if you take any u here to define like this, you can just for any u in h theta, you say that the pi h theta of x u will be equal to pi of x u, because just in the restriction of this kind of map. We say that pi theta we say to be a sub-representation of pi. Pi theta is a sub representation of pi. Is a sub representation of pi. Is a sub representation of pi. The notation that the pi theta is a sub representation of pi. Really like this. It's a sub representation by pi because pi theta map some invariant subsets of this one. Yeah, is an invariant. And the h theta is invariant. Is what we put here. Is also the map. So you see that h theta like this is a map from G to the end of this one. For all x, you have pi theta of x. It's a map from here. From all u, you have pi theta of u, which is inside because h is invariant by pi. So this one is inside. You have to call it this representation. It's only a sub-representation. 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 This is a sub-representation. Representation of pi. It's a sub-representation of pi. Okay. So you have this a sub-representation. From the representation of pi, you get another representation, the sub-representation. I can also define another representation. If you have put u like this, the class of u, element of this quotient space, h still be the invariant subspace by pi of h. You said that this map. And that means that u is the u plus for h theta by definition of the class of u is like this. I can define pi like this, but for pi of x of u like this, I can define that is pi of nu plus from this one. I give this kind of definition. Then we say that pi is a map from J into the linear transformation of also this, which is that for all x, you have pi there of x, that is for x, which map element here with pi x, map each element here, pi x here, pi x here of x, map this h into h like this. That is for all u. You have also pi as u like this, which is equal to this. This necessary is also in the h of this. Here is an element of h. This one is an element for the quotient space. This also we call this representation a quotient representation. And this pi, yeah, which will be a representation of j into this quotient space. Into this quotient space like this. Yeah, this is called quotient representation. It's called also the quotient representation of. We can prove it easily that it's also represented. Verify the two conditions, and you need to prove. Okay, those you have. If you take H, which is invariant subspace by pi, you got first of all a sub-representation of pi, and got also what we call the quotient representation of pi. In the representative Jacks from J, where the space, the carrier space is just this quotient space. This quotient space. Okay, thank you. You get it, remember, your quotient space is like this. You use this is u plus here. By definition of quotient space, you know it already. So you have this condition. So you have the sub-representation, a quotient representation, or like this. So now I'll give you some properties of representation, and we'll continue after. Now today, just give general case of representation. Okay, we can write some here. This kind of representation is like this. Now, what I'm going to prove also, we say that when the representation is irreducible. Definition. Yeah, okay, right here. This definition. This definition, I can say that a topologically irreducible representation this one is represented pi is a representation pi such that pi has no proper invariant closed subspace. It has no proper invariant closed subspace. That is topologically irreducible representation. That means that the only subspace which is closed, yeah, is necessarily a h of 0. The no proper this one. That means that if f theta is closed, invariant subspace of h like this, h theta is equal to 0, or h theta is equal to h. Just say that the representation is topologically irreducible. The give you also what you call the algebraically irreducible also. For the algebraically irreducible, when you get the algebraically irreducible, you just put out the clause. You just close. It's topologically must be closed. Algebraically is not necessarily closed, just a difference. Algebraically closed. So you should know so that if algebraic close is then one implies if I have no proper invariant, I have no this one. So algebraic implies that's topological and so on. Okay, we say is this kind of the irreducible representation. I give you after so many examples of irreducible representation. This kind, and also when you have for this general case of representation, suppose that it's like this. You study already that what we call that the direct sum of Riemann space. This one is H1, H2 like this of this kind of direct sum of Hilbert space. We call it the Hilbert sum of space, of subspace of this, direct sum of this. And it's I suppose that I pick here, P pi I here, and is a representation of J just to in H I this one. That means that pi I is just pi representation of J restricted to I pi, which pi is a representation. Well, I suppose that pi is a representation of J into H. Then I put this kind of restriction like this. And let me show you clearly here. So you have this your H here, which is called to H1, which is, you can write like this, H2, H3 like this, and this one. So I take here pi, which is the representation of J into H. So I give the representation of J of this as this. Pi I is representation of J into I. That's pi so that that's representing to H I like this. Then you can define also the direct sum of representation like this. Direct sum of representation. Pi like this for I like this like this. We call it a direct sum of representation. Of representation. Because this can also a direct sum of representation. If you can decompose like this, let me show. I will show you something here. We suppose that H here like this. H is equal to H1, H2, H3. Like this one. We take suppose that this is pi. If I can, this is pi 1. If I pick a sub-representation here of this one, which is invariant by pi 1, and I can pick also this representation, which is the orthogonal one of this, which is also representation of pi 1. And then you have from here you can put like H1 can be like that H here, the rest of H1, and each orthogonal like this. So I will have two representations there. Representation of here, the other representation of this one, this. And if this admit also a sub-representation, which is invariant also by the representation I put it, I will decompose on these two right functions. So I will have many representation. Pi, I can write that, you can write it like this, the direction of 4 pi from here, such that each pi prime is irreducible. If I can decompose this kind of representation, each such that each I prime is irreducible, we say that this representation will be called fully representation, fully decomposable. Decomposable. Say the fully decomposable or fully reducible and fully decomposable. Here, in this case, we can decompose each representation are irreducible. If you are in this case, if this is e pi 2, this one will pi 3. If the two are equivalent, for example, if pi 1 is equivalent to pi 2, I can say that pi 1 is contained 2 times in pi. Then you will have this condition. It's pi 1. So pi 1 is equivalent to pi 2. I can say that pi 1 is contained 2 times in pi. We say this kind of 2 times is pi. And when 2 is called the multiplicity of your representation in pi. Then if you say like this, when I write pi like this, the direction of this repetition, I can put it like f pi from pi end to this end. The end here will be the multiplicity. We call it the multiplicity of pi I in pi. What I'm telling you, we call it the multiplicity. Is the multiplicity of pi I in pi. What I'm telling you, right? I remind you to say that if the two, this pi 1 and pi 2 and pi 3 are equivalent, I can say that I can write pi like this. I can 3 pi 1. Because if the 3 are equivalent, I can put 3 pi 1. And after, if I have 2 1 are equivalent, I can put 2 pi 2. Pi 2 pi 4. And so 3 here, pi 4 and so. So this, you see that this here is contained in pi 3 times. This is contained in pi 2 times. What is the notation? Which is comes. So I want to see for you. When you say that pi here, from here, you see that n1 pi 1, n2 pi 2, and so on. You see that pi 1 is contained in pi n1 times. Here, pi 2 is contained in pi n2 times, and so on. Ni here is just, we call it the multiplicity of pi I in h in pi. We call it the multiplicity of some representation. Just the coefficient. So there is a method to compute this kind of multiplicity for this. We call the problem of getting the multiplicity of this one. From some case it's not solved already. For example, when you have two representations, we get the tensor product of representation. We can say that prove that the tensor product of irreducible representation is not necessarily irreducible representation. And then the problem now, how can I get the multiplicity of this one of the previous of the initial representation? What you call the Gordon-Klebusch problem, which is solved from case, but not solved from any kind of So this so for in this case, when you have a pi like this, for the matrix case like this, you have a block. You put it like the block. Which you put is a block like one and one and two, and which is the order of your block like this. Which you can do any representation you can with zero outside and so on. You can represent things which you call the matrix form of a representation. From here, it will be a representation of order n1, it's the representation of order n2, it's the representation of order n3, and so on. When you take the sum of the order, you get the order of your matrix, which can be infinite, because if you have an infinite representation, the what it can be infinite. So you know already if you send you the matrix of representation and so on. And now I'll give you just properties which is very important in this case. You'll see. Look at here. This property which is very important in this case. We suppose that let it be a Hilbert space. Is a Hilbert space, and pi is the unitary representation of H of J on H. It takes H a Hilbert space, pi the unitary representation of J on this Hilbert space. And I suppose that PH here, H eta, I put the H eta a subspace in H, a subspace in H, and I'll put also by P H theta that just the projection is of A on this H theta like this. Then you have this condition. Then one, each H is invariant, then the orthogonal is also invariant. H is invariant by pi is equivalent like the orthogonal H here, the orthogonal of here is also invariant by pi. Is also invariant by pi. Secondly, if here is invariant, by pi, this also is equivalent like the projection. Yeah, the projection I defined here just now. That's this projection here on H theta belong in this kind of algebra. That means that the projection is intertwin operators. This one intertwin H pi. That means that P like this component of pi x is equal to pi x component of P. This representation. So we put on that if H is invariant, that means that this projection is an intertwin operators for this kind of representation. I did not say first of all, but if you have this is the intertwin operator of pi prime, if the same representation here is the same representation, you just look at R of which is an algebra. You can put it like this, and it's also the representation of this kind of. So there is an assumption which is very important in this case. Yeah, if your pi, your representation is not unitary, this one is not true. It's very one. This one is very very important in these properties. You'll see the proof in my book. Any what I'm saying now, you have all in my book. The two books you have all the details of what I'm doing now. Look at my book and you can see the detail of what I'm doing. Okay, so pi, if pi is unitary, if not, if pi is not unitary, the orthogonal of invariant subspace is not necessarily invariant. If not pi is not unitary, the orthogonal of invariant subspace is not necessarily invariant. So this is very very important in this case. Very very important. But this case is very important. So the representation I will take here will be unitary representation. If not, you can do it. So I give you some examples. You have many examples in my books concerning the case where the representation is not unitary, and you prove that you pick some subset which is invariant but invariant. So in my book you see this kind of example. You see this kind of example. So H in my book you see it. I give you an example here where your representation is not unitary, and I give you an example of H of a subset of your Kerr space where your face is invariant but the orthogonal is not invariant. Okay. Okay, now that's just general case. The next time I'll tell you about speaking about the compact case. Or the representation of a compact group, representation of abelian group, and representation of Lie group, and so on. What you call the differential group representation we studied the last time. And just a remark before going. Just a remark like this. When I take that, I take pi is a representation of J into this kind of space, which is already in that space. This in that space. And I take F here, which is an element of mu here, which is the measure, a bounded measure. A bounded measure, which is a bounded measure on J. And if I do my lecture and I measure. If I want to find a measure bounded, a random measure, a random measure which is bounded, this kind of it. Then we can define also the representation like this, for pi like this, which is this, and will be equal to the integral of J of pi of x, w of x like this. This. Which is also a representation. And pi here is a representation of your this kind of algebra. Take from into this kind of inverse space. So this mu is a bounded operator measure like this. Okay, get to define the representation of from the representation of group, you can define the representation of the measure also. And also from here you can define the representation of any function. Taking in the algebra of your group, you can also define the representation on it. Also, when you take F here, which is the integral of this, you can also define a representation pi of F here, we just represent pi of x, F of x, the mu of x like this. Taking it just works. You just take this. You can define also representation of this. You really very simple. You consider this map from LU V, the element of H like this. You compose this map U V like this of the pi U V. You have this condition. I can put it like this on J, the mu of x. You suppose that. This is bounded. Taking the measure which is bounded, this is bounded like this. And this one is a bilinear and also bounded, and use the Riesz-Fleischer theorem to construct. Donc, then there will exist a here with the point of pi, sign that you have a pi of u v must be equal to this kind of notation. Then your a pi here is that what we call a pi here, what we call the mu of the pi of your mu. Yes, sir. The pi of mu, which is what you do. I tell you that this in an algebra is a convolution algebra. M here is a convolution algebra. Is a convolution algebra. So when I put here just a convolution algebra, so you define when you put mu two measure like this, two bounded measure on D, and you define the mu, the convolution of mu like this, of all f like this. It's just the notation, is that the map of x, y, d mu of x, d mu of x, of y, in J. What is called the then the here is an algebra of convolution. What you are going to use here, you have to prove that the pi of mu, the convolution of mu, might be than the pi of mu and the pi of this. This dot is a convolution algebra we use. It also here is also convolution algebra. So we have to put here, to put this representation, we have to put the pi of f, convolution of G, the pi of f, pi of A. It is the product because this also is a convolution algebra, the convolution algebra. The convolution algebra. So we are writing the product you use in here in this algebra is like this. The product you use is like this in this convolution. It is the same for the measure also. Okay, that's what. So tomorrow I will give you the detail concerning the particular case of representation and so another example. Yeah, I'll forget something before leaving. What I might say. Okay, yes, sir. There is also for the general case here. You speak about what you call the Schulema, very important too. Schulema. Schulema is very important. So when you have to use it to prove that when the representation is irreducible or not. Schulema said that if pi here, that pi is a representation of J into H by X. When you suppose that the dimensional of pi is finite, then pi is irreducible. It's only if the algebra of here, the operator here, is contain that the scalar product of this scalar. The algebra of interior operator contains just the scalar operator of this one. This is not very easy. This is the first case where J is finite dimensional. If J is not finite dimensional, you have to repeat pi here, representation of J in H. If J is finite dimensional, you have to consider that pi which is just unitary. If unitary, you have the same condition also. If the finite dimension, you don't need that it will be unitary. But if you do not finite dimensional, it's a unitary, you have also pi is irreducible. It's irreducible. It also equivalent that this kind of algebra contain the they contain the scalar operator, the identity of this. this inverting operator of H. Where C is H. Yeah, that means that one. If you say that if we take A here, is pi irreducible. When A is a map, put the X here with A 3 by X like this is 2 to the power X composite by X like this. If you have this, necessarily your X is like is identity operator of this. That means that what? That means that the S of U is that lambda, that it is contain any intertwin operator of pi. You have this. You have this. If you have this, you have this one. You have this one. This kind of. You have this kind of. For all U, element of H. Also H, you have this kind of. They call it industrial representation. Okay, so you know already for the first course, you know the interrepresentation, the characteristic of representation, when the representation is irreducible, when the representation is unitary, when it is equivalent, and so on. So tomorrow we start to study just the particular case of a compact group, of abelian group, and the Lie groups. For the Lie group, I will define, I'll give you when the representation is differentiable. For Lie group is what? It's just a manifold, also a group, but you have the condition of compatibility of this one. So you can study the differentiability of representation on this, what you call division. So thanks. Okay, now I'll give you some remarks. This matter is not enough, I'll change it. There is some remark. The first remark, and we take first of all, suppose that pi is a representation of J into H, on H like this, where H is a Hilbert space. H is a Hilbert space. H is a Hilbert space. We suppose that pi is also unitary, and pi is the unitary. Is a unitary. And then you prove that whenever the let us suppose a subspace of A, H here, H here, a subspace of our Hilbert space. And you know that if H theta is invariant by pi, this one is equivalent. We find that the orthogonal of H theta is also invariant by pi. Okay. Okay, I'll change the marker in not all. You can see it. Yeah. So I think that when you have pi is a representative of J on this Hilbert space, which is so that pi is a unitary. So we take H theta, the subspace of H, and if H theta is invariant by pi, then the orthogonal is also invariant by pi, and the converse is also true. So this is very important. This assumption is very important in this case. If your representation is not unitary, the orthogonal of a subspace which is invariant by pi is not necessarily invariant by pi. I give you an example. Let us consider this kind of example. You put G like R, and H this represents C, which is identified to R2. So continue. Then I define this representation T for all X. You associate Tx like this, which is this matrix 1, 0, X like this. Okay, you can prove easily that T is the representation of R into C on C. This kind of representation, but and T minus 1 is equal to tx like this. That means I mean that the tx, the adjoint, is not distant to the tx minus 1, and the adjoint of x is like this. Is distant of this one, because that means that t here is not unitary. T is not unitary, and it's very simple. If you consider this subspace H inner like this, which contains the element like the form 1 0, where 1 1 is element on in R. You can compute easily, you can prove easily that Tx of h theta like this is contained in h theta for all x in R. That means that our h theta here is invariant by t, by the definition. So then h theta is invariant by t, and we can compute also the h theta, the orthogonal of this one. You can prove easily that it has the element are like this form, where u2 is the element in R. But if you compute here tx of this orthogonal here is not contained in h theta on this one. That means that h theta is not invariant by t. Then h, the orthogonal of t theta is not invariant by t. This is an example of a representation saying that if you get a subset which is invariant by this representation, the orthogonal is not necessarily invariant by t, because the fact that your representation is not unitary. So then the assumption of the fact that P and TP is unitary is very important in this condition. If not true. So if we have to put that H here, if you could decompose H like this one in the direction of H and H orthogonal, you have to prove, we want to prove that if this one is invariant by pi, this also is invariant by pi. Then you can compute the representation like this, they like some. Then 1 plus this kind of representation, pi 2, where pi 1 is just exact pi restricted to the h theta, and pi 2 is just pi restriction of h theta automatically. You get the direction of representation. You can prove it like easily. The second remark, I would like to tell you the second remark. And when you have a physical block, physical symmetric block like this, you want to complete its representation. And I want to tell you before that in physics, in quantum mechanics, the most of representation you get is not necessarily irreducible. So if you have because if you have some representation which is not irreducible, you have to decompose it like direction of irreducible representation. You can use it because the irreducible representation is very useful in physics. You have more physical meaning than representation which is not irreducible. So the problem now, when you have a representation, how can I decompose it into a representation which are irreducible? And it's most of the problem we get in harmonic analysis. So that means that super P here is still the representation of J into H, like this. And how can I write pi here like the direct sum of pi I like this? This kind of representation. Where each pi I is irreducible. And why? How can I be reducible? We say if you are this condition, that means that our pi is fully reducible. Still fully reproducible, or also discretely decomposable. Discretely decomposable. This one. And if you are from a repetition, in some case, we can put it like this: when each pi here is irreducible, this kind of irreducible is very useful in physics, so in application or in general. You use already more than the useful representation than the which representation is not irreducible. That is not. But you have a representation of group. It's not necessary. You can't always decompose like the fully irreducible representation like this. But if you have in this case, when your representation pi, I give you like this property like this. Any finite dimensional representation, unitary representation is fully reducible. This one is very important. Is the representation is already finite dimensional or also unitary. This kind of you can get it. You can have this kind of decomposition. In this case, you can write it like this. Pi can be written like this, such that each pi I is irreducible. That's if not, it's not necessarily possible. But what is possible, the direct decomposition is always possible. But if not, the direct integral of representation is always possible. Direct integral of representation is always possible. And in this case, when you have this kind of representation like this, you can put it's just a decomposition also, but just a decomposition, it's just continuous decomposition like this. And you have this direct decomposition of here, which is this our component of d mu of lambda, which just here is just a Borel set, just a measure on this Borel set like this. You have for here is for always true. But there is from some condition. If you know the representation, you are not in this condition, you don't necessarily have this condition. You can't always decompose your representation into a irreducible representation like this. But this one is always true. The component here, each component is irreducible. Pi here is irreducible. This component is irreducible always. It's irreducible. This one is always true. By this, you have in this condition, you can get it. So the third remark concerns what I call the tensor product of representation. I take pi here is the representation of J into H. H pi 1, H1. And pi 2 is another representation of the same group into pi 2. Pi 1, pi 2 are Hilbert space. Pi 1, pi 2 are Hilbert space. Hilbert spaces. Are Hilbert spaces. Then we can decompose like this. For all x here in J, you can decompose pi 1, the tensor product of pi 2 like this. of all x of any u1, this tensor product for u2, it is the definition like the pi 1 of x u1 and do the tensor product of pi 2 of x u2. You know that the tensor product of representation. Tensor product of representation. Tensor product of representation. Tensor product. This is the definition of the tensor product of representation. Now the remark is like this: if pi is irreducible, if you are here, if you suppose that pi here, pi 1 is irreducible, irreducible object into h like this, and pi 2 is also irreducible. Okay, then pi 1, the tensor product of pi 1, pi 2 is not necessarily irreducible. It is not necessary. This is very, very important. That the tensor product of irreducible representation is not necessarily irreducible representation. Then our pi here, if not irreducible, it can contain this kind of thing. Then you can write it like this. It can be like some C, some component like C1 and 2 like this, and lambda, pi lambda, and lambda like this. Because this is not irreducible, then it contains some representation, because it's not necessarily irreducible. Now this one is irreducible. When they contain, you can get some kind of representation like this one. And this kind of coefficient is called this kind of 1, 2 is called Klebesch. Klebesch like this, or C is Gordon coefficient. Gordon coefficient. This kind of coefficient. And the problem is also open. This kind of problem is also why you cannot get this coefficient and from some representation of some kind of group. If some group is already solved by so there is some group we can get this kind of multiplicity, which is called the coefficient, the Klebesch Gordon coefficient. Pi here is pi 1 is reducible, pi 2 is also reducible, but the tensor product is not necessarily reducible. Then you can write it like this. The problem now, how can I get this multiplicity and this? This is the problem now. This kind of problem is called, this kind of coefficient is called the Klebesch Gordon coefficient. It's very difficult. This kind of problem is open for some kind of law. That's okay, thanks. Okay, those all regard those. Okay, thanks.